Good afternoon. My name is Katerina Одарченко. I represent SIG Group company. We work on campaign management, elections, public relations, and anti-crisis communication. And today we will talking about very important term. I think it's basic core term in communications. It's archetypes. So usually in all professional campaigning and in strategy making, when you start your political career, also in marketing, we use archetype. So if you read books of Carl Jung, maybe you already knew like what is archetype. If not, I will explain very shortly how we can use these models in forming our political campaign, and I will give you some examples from marketing to understand better this model. So mainly when we talk about archetype, it's some models of typical behavior model of people. So usually when you watch some movies, you can understand some typical models and some typical roles in this movie. So usually it's some innocent woman, it's also some hero, it's also some magician, it's also some lover, and it's like typical roles in our society. When you also listen my lecture, you can understand archetypes of your friends or your partner or your colleague on work. So you also can understand who is ruler in your company, who is caregiver in your family, who is, for example, hero in your non-profit work, and so on and so forth. So it's typical understanding, and what is interesting that this understanding will be the same for you if you work in Ghana in Africa, if you work in Ukraine, or if you work in United States. So these models, it's the same for all people and for all nations. It's very important to understand about archetypes. So originally how we use archetypes in marketing, it's also more clear. So I think I will give you some examples firstly from marketing. Yes, so you can see this example. Yeah, you can see this example. So, for example, outlaw, it's virgin. Yeah, so you see they usually rebellions in the marketing. You can see hero, it's Nike, of course. You can do it, just do that. You can see lover, typical for Victoria's Secret underwear. You can see a magician as Apple. You can see jester on Candy's brand. You can see creator of some soft brands. So you also now can remember your brands which you usually use, and understand in what archetype they work. It's also quite typical. Of course, political archetypes, it's a little bit different. So here I showed to you how to understand political archetypes. So usually political archetypes, it's ruler, it's caregiver, it's hero, also like classical hero and ruler. I will explain in my big lecture this difference. Sometimes it's regular guy or regular girl, and sometimes it's explorer. So archetypes, it's a little different for it's a little different for men and women, but you must understand that one more time, if you like in archetype of lover and you want to be elected to public office, maybe it's not the best archetype of using. So archetype, it's some model of your how you speak, it's some model how you looks like, it's some model what decision you already made and you will make in future. So it's very important. You can also imagine if I do this lecture not in this suit, but for example in evening dress, it will be a little weird in my archetype of Athena, for example. It's like wise woman, and it's will be a little weird if we for example, fight with authoritarian regime and we not use a rebellion archetype. So also one little homework for you, it's to understand what is your archetype. It can be not one archetype, it can be 2 or 3 usually, and you also can analyze the most powerful people in this world, what archetype they use. It can be quite different people in different country, but it will be the same model of communication. So, and it's very important to understand your archetype, because from this archetype you form your story, you form your biography, you form your style, you form your speeches, you form your message. And archetype, it's also one of the basics in political strategy. So it's all for today's short video, and we also provide you big lecture about archetypes, about every archetype and how we can use them in in details. My name is Katerina Одарченко. SIC Group will be happy to work with you, and we'll be happy also to answer your questions on this or related issues of campaigning and elections. See you next time.